There is a weight on this word, a holy weight, a prophetic urgency that refuses to be silent. Because what I came to share with you is not light, it is divine fire. This is not just a sermon, this is a prophetic announcement, a divine interruption. And if you have breath in your lungs and ears to hear, then heaven has chosen you to receive this word. What's coming after May 31, 2025 will not just be seen, it will be felt. In homes, in churches, in nations. God is about to shake everything that can be shaken, so that only what is unshakable will remain. This is not a moment to be casual. This is not a time to be spiritually asleep. This is a moment for alignment, for positioning, for deep consecration, because the tremor that's coming is not one of destruction, but of divine awakening. And God is calling you to the front lines of this move. Before the world sees the shift, the Spirit is searching for those He can trust to carry His glory through it. You don't need to be famous. You just need to be found faithful. What happens after May 31 won't be explained by headlines. It will be discerned in the Spirit. So prepare your heart, beloved. God is about to move in a way we've never seen before. And He's starting with those who are ready to say yes. There are moments in the timeline of heaven where what has been concealed in the shadows is suddenly brought into full light. Moments when the hand of God moves so intentionally that the earth cannot help but respond. When the winds of the Spirit begin to stir so violently that every false structure begins to tremble. And this is one of those moments. What's coming after May 31, 2025 is not just a global event, it is a divine unveiling, a prophetic exposure of what has been hidden in the dark, and the divine elevation of what has been hidden in Him. The things that have been covered up in deception, manipulation, pride, and religion are about to be torn open, not to bring embarrassment, but to bring liberation. Because the mercy of God sometimes looks like exposure. He reveals not to destroy, but to cleanse. And when the shaking begins, it will not start in the systems of the world. It will begin in the house of God. For too long, things have been building in the dark, platforms built on personality, not purity. Movements driven by ambition, not anointing. Hearts that profess Him with their lips, but denied Him with their compromise. And heaven has been silent, not absent, not unaware, but watching to see who would repent, who would turn, who would seek Him in truth. And now the season has shifted. What's been concealed will no longer stay buried. The false will fall and the faithful will rise. Because God is not mocked and His holiness cannot be bought or branded. He is cleansing the altars before He releases the fire. But don't misunderstand this exposure. It is not the wrath of God. It is the love of a Father who desires a pure bride, a holy people, a generation that walks not with height, but with humility. And in the same breath that He is exposing the impure, He is elevating those who have been hidden, the ones who were overlooked, the ones who stayed faithful in the unseen places, the ones who didn't seek a stage but built an altar. They weren't popular, they weren't promoted, but they were postured in prayer, hidden in Him, obedient in silence. And now, heaven is putting a spotlight on their obedience, not to glorify them, but to glorify Himself through them. There are voices God is about to release into this next season that have been in obscurity, not because they weren't ready, but because the timing wasn't. God was hiding them for protection, shielding them from premature exposure, developing their character so that when the doors opened, their integrity could sustain what their gifts would attract. These are not the influences of the flesh. They are the influences of the Spirit. And the weight they carry is not performance. It is presence. They carry oil, and oil is only produced through crushing. They've been through the fire. They've endured the wilderness. They've passed the test that no one else saw. And now God is saying, it's time. This elevation will not look like the world's version of success. It will not come with viral moments or man-made validation. It will come with power, with authority, with the kind of impact that shifts atmospheres and breaks chains. Because what's coming after May 31 is not just a season. It's a divine assignment. And God is assigning positions in the spirit realm. He's releasing mantles. He's redistributing influence, not to those who have built empires, but to those who have built intimacy. This is the changing of the guard, the passing of the torch, the repositioning of hearts and hands that are fully surrendered to Him. This is why the secret place has mattered so much in the last few seasons. God has been training people in private for what He's about to do in public. But only those who stayed hidden in Him will have the capacity to handle what's coming. Because the elevation is not about applause, it's about assignment. And the assignment requires weight, it requires depth, it requires purity. If your foundation is shallow, the shaking will expose it. But if your roots are deep, the shaking will reveal it. There are people who have been misjudged, underestimated, even dishonored. But God saw them, and when the time is right, His time, He will lift them. And no man will be able to take credit for it. This is a holy reversal, a divine shifting of seats, a repositioning of power. And it won't be clean. It won't be neat. Because the shaking is going to make people uncomfortable. It's going to disrupt patterns, challenge structures, and dismantle idols. The idols of fame, control, greed, and even tradition. But in the midst of that shaking, a new sound will rise. A sound from those who have been waiting in the wilderness. This Spirit. Those who have been cultivating the oil of the Spirit with no audience. And when they speak, the earth will respond, not because their voice is loud, but because their voice is pure. And purity has power. It cannot be denied. God is reminding His people that the real authority never comes from the crowd. It comes from the secret place. And in this season of exposure and elevation, the secret place is the only safe place. Because when He begins to shake the nations, everything that is not rooted in Him will fall. Ministries built on charisma will crumble. Relationships built on convenience will be tested. Platforms built without prayer will collapse. And the only ones who will stand are those who have been hidden in the rock. The ones who learned how to worship when no one was watching. Who fasted not for favor, but for alignment, who obeyed without needing confirmation from man. These are the ones He's calling forth. The temptation in this next season will be to chase visibility. But the Spirit is saying, stay hidden. Because those who rush into the spotlight without His presence will be crushed under the weight of it. Elevation without preparation is dangerous. But elevation after obedience is destiny. God is promoting not the proud, but the postured. And posture cannot be faked. It is seen by heaven, tested by fire, and confirmed through consistency. Many have spoken the language of the Spirit, but few have lived the lifestyle. And the shaking will make the distinction clear. Not to shame, but to refine. Not to hurt, but to heal. Because God is building a house that cannot be shaken. And only holy vessels will carry his next move. This is not just a word of prophecy. It's a call to preparation. Because you cannot carry what's coming if you haven't been stripped of what was. You cannot be elevated into something new if you're still clinging to the old. God is removing false identities, man-made labels, and surface-level success. He is elevating voices that echo his heart. Voices that tremble at his word. Voices that carry the fragrance of time spent with him. This is the hour of the hidden ones. The Davids in the field, the Esthers in the palace, the Josephs in the prison, the Hannahs in the temple. They've been waiting, groaning, interceding. And now heaven is calling them out. This shame will not only separate, it will reveal. It will reveal who has been built on sand and who has been built on the rock. Who has just talked the talk and who has walked the walk. Who has performed and who has truly worshiped. And the ones who emerge will not do so in pride, but in power. Because their lives have been laid down, their agendas surrendered, their plans crucified. And now they carry the evidence of resurrection. God is raising up voices who will not entertain but awaken. Leaders who will not build brands but build altars. Messengers who will not point to themselves, but point to Jesus. And they will not be popular, but they will be anointed. They will not be loud, but they will be effective because they've been hidden in him. And now they will be revealed for him. There is a misconception that shaking is always punishment, that when God begins to disrupt systems, silence voices, and unravel what man has built, he is acting out of anger. But this is not the character of our God. The shaking that is coming after May 31, 2025 is a movement of alignment. It is not to destroy, but to realign. Not to cast down for ruin, but to position for release. There's a revival that has been prepared in the unseen. A move of God that has been brooding beneath the surface of our distractions, delays, and disobedience. But for that revival to fully come forth, the house must first be set in order. The hearts must be purified. The vision must be made clear. And to do that, God must shake what we have settled into so that what is kingdom can emerge. Many have mistaken comfort for covenant. We've confused God's patience for permission. And in his mercy, he has allowed systems to grow, movements to expand, names to be lifted high, even when they weren't built on truth. But that era is ending. The shaking is heaven's way of saying, I love you too much to let you remain out of alignment. Just as a doctor resets a broken bone to ensure proper healing, God is resetting his people. This is not wrath. This is refinement. It is a holy reset. And it's going to look like shaking. It will feel like loss to those who don't recognize the season, but to those with spiritual eyes, it will feel like justice. Not man's justice, kingdom justice. A justice that tears down the authentic can breathe again. What's coming will strip away the scaffolding that has supported artificial success. Titles that were never God-given will be laid down. Platforms that were not birthed in the secret place will crumble under their own weight. Ministries that prioritize brand over the broken will feel the tremors. And it's not because God is cruel, it's because God is holy. He is jealous for his glory. And he is determined that the next revival will not be contaminated by ego or entitlement. This shaking is not about exposing people. It's about exposing patterns. Patterns that have replaced intimacy with performance. That have turned worship into entertainment. That have made leaders idols and holiness optional. And God is saying, enough. But even in the shaking, there will be grace, because alignment always precedes release. God is not just disrupting, he is preparing. And those who recognize the shaking for what it is will not resist it. They will surrender to it. They will yield, repent, adjust, and posture themselves in humility. And those hearts will become conduits for the revival that is about to burst forth. Because when God shakes the foundations, it's only so he can rebuild on what cannot be moved. Revival is coming, but it cannot rest on compromise. It cannot ride on convenience. It must be housed in purity, in obedience, in truth that cuts and heals at the same time. This is why you must not fear the shaking. Don't mistake discomfort for disaster. God is being intentional. He's not just moving things. He's positioning people. The remnant is rising. The faithful are being called out of hiding. The intercessors who have travailed in silence are being invited to the front lines. The prophets who refuse to sell their voice are about to speak with clarity and conviction. The worshipers who never sought attention are being trusted with atmospheres. This shaking will remove the polished and promote the prepared. And preparation doesn't happen on stages. It happens in surrender. God is making room for his glory to dwell again, not just in churches, but in homes, in hearts, and entire nations. But before the fire can fall, the altar must be cleared. The clutter must go. The idols must be torn down. And this is why alignment matters. Because God will not release what we are not prepared to carry. The coming revival will not be like revivals of the past. It will not be tied to one location or one person. It will be decentralized, yet united. Wild, yet ordered. It will break out in unconventional places through unexpected people. But it will carry a weight that only aligned hearts can hold. And so the shaking is the grace of God saying, get ready. He is aligning marriages, ministries, markets, and mindsets. The fear of the Lord is returning, not the fear that pushes people away from God, but the holy reverence that draws them into him. People will begin to crave the pure word again. They will hunger for truth even when it convicts. There will be a separation between hype and holy, between relevant and righteous, between flashy and faithful. And that separation is the evidence of the shaking. What once blended together will now be clearly divided. Not to isolate, but to illuminate. To make it clear what is of him and what is not. You must prepare your heart now, not with anxiety, but with anticipation. Because if you are aligned, the shaking will not harm you. It will position you. It will place you right where you are needed. Some of you will be sent to places you never imagined. Others will be called to build what hasn't existed before. You won't need to chase opportunity. Opportunity will find the aligned. Because alignment, God is not looking for impressive resumes. He's looking for surrendered vessels. The kind that say yes when it's inconvenient. That love him more than they love their image. That obey without needing a spotlight. These are the ones who will carry revival, not just for a moment, but for a generation. This shaking will make space for miracles, healings that defy medical explanation, deliverances that no one can deny, salvations in places where the gospel has never been preached. And it won't be the result of a clever campaign. It will be the result of pure vessels who've been aligned by the fire of God. People who know how to host his presence. That is the fruit of this alignment. That is the reward of those who endure the shaking and stay surrendered. Do it. The nations will feel it. Not just churches, not just Christians, nations, governments will shift. Economic systems will tremble. Policies will be overturned. Voices that were once silenced will be amplified. Movements that were ignored will gain momentum, but not because of human strength. Because of divine strategy, birth in alignment, there is a blueprint being released from heaven. It will not be found in textbooks or think tanks. It will come to those who are tuned in, who are listening, who have made room for the whisper of God. And that whisper will become a roar in the nations, a roar of righteousness, a roar of justice, a roar of revival. So prepare, not with panic, but with prayer. Let the Holy Spirit search your heart. Let him strip away every false alignment, every place where you've compromised truth for comfort. Let him recalibrate your motives, rewire your perspective, and reawaken your hunger, because what's coming cannot be handled with yesterday's oil. It demands a fresh yes, a deep yes, a surrendered yes. The shaking is not the end, it's the beginning. The doorway into something holy, something new, something pure. And only those who are aligned will be able to carry it without breaking. Alignment is the invitation. Revival is the reward. And it all begins the moment you say, "Here I am, Lord. Align me for what's next." There is a sacred weight to the secret place that many have underestimated. It is not simply a quiet corner or a moment of silence. It is the womb of authority, the hidden place, the unseen altar, the private time spent in intimacy with God is where true power is forged. And in the days after May 31, 2025, when the shaking begins and the earth groans for answers, it will not be the loudest voices or the most followed platforms that carry the authority to respond. It will be those who were prepared in the secret place. The ones who built altars when others were building platforms. The ones who wept in intercession when others sought attention. The ones who waited on God when culture told them to run, because God does not reveal authority in the same place he trains it. He hides his vessels in the dark until they are ready to release light. There has been a preparation happening beneath the surface, a grooming of hearts in places no one else can see. These are the ones who have said yes when there was no applause, who worshiped when there was no music, who fasted when there was no church program, who obeyed when there was no confirmation. These are the secret place dwellers, and they are about to walk in visible authority, authority that cannot be mimicked, authority that cannot be marketed, authority that comes from heaven's throne room, sealed by fire and recognized by both angels and demons. In this next season, performance will lose its influence and presence will rise in power. God is not promoting those who are known by man. He is elevating those who are known by him. When the world begins to ask questions that intellect cannot answer and systems cannot fix, it will look to those who carry something more than words. The shaking will dismantle dependence on earthly wisdom and highlight the necessity of divine revelation. And divine revelation is reserved for those who dwell in the secret place. Those who have chosen to prioritize God above strategy, intimacy above image, and truth above trend. These are the ones who will not just echo what has been said, they will declare what has been revealed. Because they have been in the counsel of the Lord, they have heard what others missed. They have carried burdens that did not belong to them, cried tears for nations they've never seen, and travailed for breakthroughs they may never get credit for. But heaven has recorded every moment. And now heaven is releasing them. This authority will not be gentle in appearance, though it will be wrapped in love. It will confront demonic agendas with courage. It will pierce through deception with clarity. It will break cycles that have lasted for generations. This is not authority that entertains. It delivers. It liberates. It restores. Because it was not manufactured in popularity, it was refined in consecration. You will know them not by their look, but by their impact. When they speak, things shift. When they pray, atmospheres respond. When they walk into rooms, darkness loses its grip. Because they are not carrying themselves, they are carrying the weight of God's presence. The secret place has never been about isolation. It's always been about preparation. And those who have misunderstood the silence of their season will begin to see why the delay was necessary, why the rejection had purpose, why the hiding was protection. God has been developing leaders who do not need to be seen to be effective, who do not need validation to remain faithful, who have found contentment in communion, not in clout. These are the ones who will rise in the aftermath of May 31, not to build personal empires, but to advance the kingdom with precision, power, and purity. There will be no room for imitation in what's coming. Imposters will be exposed by the weightlessness of their words. Only those with real oil, real fire, and real authority will be able to sustain what God is releasing. And that authority will be costly. It will require continual sacrifice. A constant return to the secret place, not for status, but for sustenance. Because spiritual authority is not a one-time endowment. It is maintained through intimacy, through daily surrender, through unwavering devotion. The moment you leave the secret place, you begin to lose your edge. And in the days to come, the edge will be everything. You won't need to be the most talented, the most eloquent, or the most skilled. You will need to be the most submitted. This is why God has been stripping, pruning, and recalibrating his people, not to hurt them, but to make space for authority. There are things you cannot carry into the next season: offense, bitterness, unforgiveness, pride, ego, self-reliance. They all weigh too much, and God is saying, lay it down. I'm preparing to use you in ways you cannot imagine, but you must be light enough to move when I say move. Secret place teaches you how to release what hinders and embrace what heals. It teaches you how to value his voice above every other voice. And when that voice becomes your anchor, authority becomes your inheritance. Authority is not just for church. It is for nations, for industries, for governments, for education, for entertainment, for families. God is not raising up another generation of church goers. He is raising up kingdom reformers. People who will walk into boardrooms and shift the atmosphere, who will enter classrooms and unlock destiny, who will take seats in political places not to blend in, but to be a light that cannot be hidden. But these reformers will not come from traditional places. They will emerge from the secret place, hidden in God, trained by the Spirit, released by heaven. And they will not be interested in recognition. They will be driven by obedience. The shaking that is coming will create space for these voices. The ones who didn't fit into the old mold. The ones who were misunderstood, mischaracterized, mislabeled. But they have stayed faithful. They have kept their hearts clean. They have refused to conform. And now their time has come. God is releasing a sound through them that will awaken sleeping churches, heal broken systems, and they will not compromise the message for applause. They will not dilute the truth for acceptance, because their loyalty is not to platforms, it is to the King. And the King is about to put his seal on their lives. This is a call to return to the secret place, to rediscover the beauty of being hidden, because hiddenness is not punishment, it is protection. It is where God reveals your identity, refines your character, and releases your assignment. And when the time is right, he brings you out, not for show, but for service. The nations are groaning for deliverers. The earth is crying out for solutions. And the only ones who will be able to respond are those who have been with God. The secret place is not an option in this hour. It is a necessity. It is the only place where the noise of the world is silenced. The voice of the Lord becomes clear. What's coming will test every foundation. It will shake every false support. And only those who are rooted in God's presence will remain standing, but not just standing, leading, healing, and building. These are the days of visible authority. And that authority is being handed to the ones who remain hidden in the secret place. They are not rising to be seen. They are rising because they are sent.